Good morning, St. John.
Does this work? There we go. La-di-da. Hey, go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Clutch.
I'm CrYpT. We are actually have two other individuals that are usually with us. Weren't able to make it. Some of you may know Lost. And hexdump. And we are curious codes right now. So go ahead.
So to start, please note that this is a discussion.
No one knew.
How about now?
Woo! Oh, great.
Nice. I feel like singing. Please note that we would like this to be a discussion and not a monologue, so please feel free to comment or question or anything, and pretty much whenever you like, we encourage that. This should be an interactive thing. Find that to be a lot more interesting. So how about a show of hands? How many of you guys have been to a DEF CON before? That's quite a few of you.
Oh, wow. I'm actually surprised that there are people that haven't. That's actually, that's impressive.
And keep them up if you've ever competed in Mystery Challenge and badge competition. Any of you? Nice, nice. And anybody want to share an experience they've had while competing in these things? Because I see that there's not a whole lot of you, and that's kind of the point of this. Not a whole lot of you have done that. How did you find your experience to be? Painful.
Yes,
We
actually,
hear that a lot.
I'm actually very glad I heard that today. Go on.
Okay. But overall, did you enjoy it? Is it something you're glad you did? Yes. Okay. And although everybody says it's painful and that it's really hard and hey, you ate my whole con and all that stuff, most of the time I also hear that it was a very rewarding experience. Most people seem to have learned a lot, and one of the really interesting things is that the people who have competed in these things tend to form some really lasting friendships. I'm thinking specifically of several groups that we'll discuss a little bit in a minute, where people come and form a team that have never met before, yet end up, being lifelong friends, and I think that's absolutely tremendous. Has anybody ever placed in one of these competitions or gotten a black badge for it?
I was about to say, I'm no right here. What year was that?
17?
Oh, so that was Mr. That was a mean one.
That was.
That was a really mean one. In fact, we were going to bring Grifter up to talk about that.
Talk about some of his
Unfortunately,
experiences. Apparently his kid was late to school or something,
Yeah.
so he didn't make it. So in honor of Grifter.
Yeah, so he had a fantastic story. We were actually all sitting around this year at DEF CON.
Derby.
Well, Derby as well,
Yeah.
but DEF CON I'm thinking more Hex when we had Milkshake O'Clock
Oh yeah,
every single night. And I just want to take a step back because an individual that was with us, who apparently, I don't know how he does it, Troy, who apparently does everything and works really hard for SaintCon, was with us during the whole badge debacle this year at DEF CON, and he's a machine apparently.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And we also want to give him credit for something that he has gone to great lengths for you guys, and we'll go more into that, but just know that Troy has gone to great effort to get you guys some really cool stuff this year.
Yes.
And really should be thanked and given a lot of credit for that.
So Conf, you probably know this reference then.
The Grifter Shoes reference?
Oh, wow. Okay, so at one point during Mystery Challenge, there was a time where everyone was kind of, and it was actually 17, where everyone was kind of fighting, you want to say? Oh, Mike, I'm sorry. Everyone was kind of fighting. And one of the things that was done is Lost decided to make one of the items,
like for extra points,
Grifter's shoes. And at that point, it was either steal his shoes. I think it was Psychoholics who carried him
with his shoes on. There.
And I think at DEF CON 23, 2003, Council of 9 actually got one of his shoes, and Grifter's shoes was actually, I think, the only inanimate black badge winner.
Yeah.
At DEF CON.
At DEF CON. They took it up with him.
Yeah. So unfortunately, he wasn't here to tell it, but definitely, if you see, he will be here.
Yeah.
Confront him.
Yeah. So basically, the story he was going to tell is we asked him about some of his experiences, and we're sitting in the hotel room, and we said, well, you know, we're putting this talk together. We'd like to know what your experience has been competing in this type of competition. And he goes, you guys are just damn mean. You guys are just mean. He goes, like the time that the mystery box had 3 locks on it, and one of them had a magnet next to it. So when you went to pick it, it would pull your picks to the side. He goes, and that was just mean. That was just cruel. He goes, and then you figure out that the one in the middle started out open. So you picked it locked. And that's just mean. That's just mean. That's the only word for it. So it was basically going to, this part of the talk was going to be Grifter's mean talk, but that's essentially what it was.
Yeah.
So ask Grifter when you do see him, because he'll be around here today. Ask him about how mean we are. So how many of you have thought about competing in something like this, but maybe were intimidated by it? Maybe scared to try. I think it's impossible. It is pretty intimidating when you see these letters that don't make sense and stuff that you're not used to seeing. So how many of you have thought about it but just didn't really make yourself do it because it just looked scary? It looked like something that maybe was too hard you didn't think you could do. Anybody? Yeah? Yeah, me too. It is for people like you that we created Curious Codes. We want to make this type of puzzle and experience approachable. We want to be able to teach the thought process and open this up to a wider audience. And we want people to understand you don't have to be a crypto expert to be useful to a team working on these challenges.
It does help, though.
It does help. If Jeremy would put up a picture, I'd like to put up a picture of Thor. Any of you know Thor?
He looked something like that before.
This was Thor until we made him shave his head. And Jeremy, tell us a little about Thor.
So one interesting thing, and this is actually one of the reasons why we started thinking about Curious Codes. With Thor, we found out 2 years later that his first conference at DEF CON was DEF CON 22. He had never heard of crypto, obviously heard of crypto, but never thought about it in a gamification type of way, and had never attempted to do any sort of anything with it at a conference. And so, crazy as it may be, he and another friend from Pbzr, where he worked at the time,
2 guys,
went by, I think that year they were Potato Sack, decided to do the badge challenge. So he's never experienced Mystery Challenge, and for those who have done Mystery Challenge know it's a much different beast. I can see Comp going, oh. But with the badge challenge, that was his first experience in. Well, they did something actually quite amazing. The 2 of them, against people like Council of 9, Psychoholics, they got all the way to 2nd place. They were minutes away from winning and made like some weird mistake.
They went off on a little bit of a tangent, and it cost them just enough time that they fell behind. But they led the contest, a good portion of the contest.
Yeah.
And these are 2 guys that have never done it before, never done anything like this.
Yeah. So the next year they were determined to come back and win it. And at DEF CON 23, he ended up, with Brett, ended up joining Council of 9.
Who had won it the year before.
Yeah, who had won it the year before.
And I think they were scared of him, and I think that's why they asked him to join the team.
It really was the case. But so they ended up winning that 2nd year for DEF CON 23. And he didn't get to take the badge. That was the badge for you guys who went. And I wish I would have gotten a picture of it. This is the triangle acrylic, the one that had...
The one with the radioactive isotopes in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always crazy to hear.
Yeah.
So then at DEF CON 24, this last one, he won again. And we started talking with him, and honestly, the funny part is, the company I work for, we hired him. So he got a job out of it. So he's working with Lost and I now. And one of the things that I found out, besides it being the first one, is that it transformed him personally. Like, he's constantly doing year-round crypto. He makes his own like puzzles and does his own different things online, all influenced with what Lost had created.
Right.
which blew our minds. And so, yeah, the idea is someone going from not touching crypto with very good guidance. I mean, he had a lot of people, so he was remembered spending a lot of time in the lost room and just asking questions. And we started realizing, as we're hearing that more, besides it being extremely painful, everyone was very helpful. But we started noticing that because Lost had to make it more and more difficult each and every year, that people were struggling to even start. You get your beautiful lanyard, you get your badge, you look around con, see all the art, and you just don't know what to do with it.
Right.
So,
so we basically, well, and to put this into perspective, Thor was the black badge winner at DEF CON 23 and 24, a guy who had never touched it until the year before that. So that's pretty incredible. But what we want you to do, we want to encourage you to reach outside your comfort zone. We want you to stretch your mind, and we want you to make some friends. You guys have seen the Psychoholics running around DEF CON? They came about forming a team to compete in the Mystery Challenge one year. They'd never met, and now they are very tight. They get together all year round. They're lifelong friends, and that's a really good side benefit that comes from a lot of these things. We hope to give you an experience that you would find enjoyable and enlightening, but what we're trying to do and what we're going to go into now is how we hope to make this more approachable. So some of you guys that raised your hands before and said that you had thought about competing but were a little intimidated, we're hoping this will give you kind of a leg up and kind of a door into this world.
Yeah.
So at Curious Codes, we talk a lot about how mystery's gone out of the world. And you guys have probably heard my brother talk about this a few times, about how eureka moments that a lot of us old guys used to have when we would have to struggle to learn something have been stripped out of life. That there aren't any mysteries anymore. Basically, Google has told all the secrets, explained all the magic tricks, and gotten people used to expecting their information a lot like they expect their fast food, instantaneously with very little effort. But unfortunately, it's also not particularly satisfying or edifying a lot of times when you don't struggle for it like a lot of us used to. Show of hands, how many of you guys can remember digging through a card catalog at a library? Yeah. And then how many of you guys can remember going to get the book that you struggle to find and it's checked out? So then you try the magazine, and you go get the magazine, and the page is torn out that you needed, right? Right? But you remember after struggling and struggling to come up with an answer or to learn something new when you actually had to expend a lot of effort, how satisfying it was when you would have that eureka moment, how satisfying it was when you would understand that information finally, and it wasn't just a couple of mouse clicks. You actually had to work for it a little bit. I think that's something
something to be said about that.
Well, there is, and this generation, I think, while it's very nice, and there's a lot to be said on the other side for the fact that there's a lot of information available quickly, there's also something to be said for struggling for something and accomplishing it. Matter of fact, one of the most challenging things that we find is Google proofing these puzzles. And it's astounding how many great ideas we have had to pass on for these challenges, because a two-word Google search will blow the whole thing. We spend days and months testing these challenges and running through them ourselves, trying to think of every conceivable way, trying to keep them from being able to be shortcutted easily. Excuse me. So much time, in fact, that my lovely wife refers to the bearded lady here as my other wife.
Hey.
Okay.
I love you, Case.
Well, one of the other big rewards that we have seen is getting our kids to try this stuff. As a matter of fact, 2 of my children are here with us today. You guys raise your hand. And
Clap. Embarrassment. Feel it.
Say hi, Michaela. And one of the really cool things, CrYpT kind of started the trend. And CrYpT, do you want to tell us a little bit about
just my kids are 10 and 11, and when we were creating some of these things, and not to discourage people, but when we were creating some of these things, I let them mess around with them, and it was really interesting to see how far they were able to get with what they new, what they researched. I mean, rightfully, they have me constantly talking to them about crypto, constantly talking about technology, as we probably all do with our kids. But it's a very proud moment to see a 10 and 11-year-old, and actually somewhat awkward when they get all excited about finding out who Kid and Play are, for example. And they're like, "Oh my goodness, Dad, Kid and Play," and you're just hearing them talk about that. Yeah, is definitely interesting. But so how many guys have seen or saw at DEF CON that were there this coin? So, and I know a few of you would have gotten them. We only made 600, and they all went super fast. Anyone have seen this coin? The one with the derby? Was anyone at DerbyCon? One. Did you happen to make it to the room and take a look at it? No. Boo. No. So these coins are, think of them as accessible badge challenges, but more to help you identify, hopefully next year at DEF CON and everything else that we're doing, and for the example of the coin on the right, a way to help you
cut your teeth.
Yeah.
These were designed to be an entry-level type of a device.
Yeah.
As you can see from the back here, how many of you guys think this looks intimidating looking at what's on the back here?
Here, let's go ahead and.
The Derby coin, the one in the middle, do you guys? Some of you guys know Zant. His daughter wanted the coin, so he bought her one and sent her images of it during the conference. She was at a football game with her friends. They sat around on their cell phones and solved it in the bleachers during the football game.
Yeah, which was really cool. And one of the parts of this, which some of you guys will have these out for people to mess with, but one of the parts of this is you have to find us and give us information. Just very normal badge challenge stuff that Lost will do. And the funny part is she's obviously states away. She was in Maryland,
yeah,
right?
She was in Maryland.
She's in Maryland, and we were in Kentucky. And I'm getting a text with very specific parameters sent to me, and laughing because I forgot that I had sent her the image because Lee had bought it, and so I sent her the image. And I was just amazed. I was like, "Why am I getting this?" Because I didn't have her number in my phone. And I was like, "Why am I getting this random text with the right answer?" And so I had to figure out and trace down who it was. But it was really cool to hear the story that they had right after band. They all went to the bleachers, ignored the game, had a group of like I guess 10 or 11 of people gathered around this picture and just searching stuff and trying to figure out and get things together. So
now there's something I want to assure you all of. This coin here, if you want to zoom back in on it just for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, Case. Yeah. Is that better?
Yes, much. I promise you that everyone in here can solve that coin with two things. You basically need to go at it with an inquisitive mind, and you need to have a willingness to engage others. Because I guarantee if you put your minds together, you can solve this. This is not as complicated as it looks. And we're going to give you some examples of this in just a second. See, so what we found is that the really intimidating part is, hey, I don't know where to start. Hey, I don't know where to start. So basically, thanks to, again, a great effort by Troy, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
We wanted to take the constraint of we wanted to create something that would cause you to seek collaboration with other people who are not necessarily at the same conferences as you as well. But even after trying to make this very accessible, we found many people were really intimidated. And looking at these pictures and these writings can be pretty scary. So what this led us to do with the cooperation of Troy is it led us to create a tool. We wanted something to make this code more attainable, help identify certain elements. Now, I want to be clear, this is not something to solve the puzzle for you, but it makes this portion of the puzzle less daunting. I would refer to it as kind of a slide rule for crypto. So today at SaintCon, we are introducing, for the first time,
drum roll.
This is the part where we would put the black turtlenecks on. Meet Rosetta.
Yeah, meet Rosetta. Okay, so how many?
Okay, now if all of you will reach under your seats, you'll notice that due to some production delays and a holiday in China, there's nothing there. However, due to the mammoth efforts of Troy and St. Con, one way or another, you will all be receiving one, and hopefully before the end of Con. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we toyed around. So Lost's first idea when he was working on the design, we were coins, and he goes, CrYpT, I need you to find out how much it's going to cost to do a 5-inch coin.
We didn't know if there was such a thing.
And I just had done a 3-inch coin, and I with the first Curious coin, and I was like, that's going to be a lot. I was like, well, maybe we can do like 150.
And we were just going to give them out.
So we started looking at, we were going to lucky 150, you're going to get this mammoth coin, which ends up being really super heavy. And then, so we talked with Troy, and we were like, so we're going to do this. We have a small amount that we can do. But then I started talking, I don't think we're going to do the coin only because it's so heavy and it's not really, you can't carry it around easily. So one of the funny things is Troy goes, great. Now I want one for everyone. And and I went, wait, what?
Yeah, because the 150 ended up being something like $7,000.
Yeah.
Just outrageous because of the amount of material involved.
So Lost, I don't know, at the beginning of the year, Gathering for Gardener, if you know Gardner and or this conference, it runs every 2 years. If you're into math, if you're into
he was a mathematician, an author, and
magician, everything.
He was a guy that Isaac Asimov looked up to.
Yeah. Yes.
He was.
Yes. So this is a 4-inch PCB, 2-layer, black, matte, gold. These Rosetta not now coins. I gotta stop calling them that. These will be this. There's going to be obviously 2 sides. The other side is going to be something that will allow you to test yourself. It will help you identify. Now, again, I don't know that it should be here Friday, so if you're not here Friday, and I guess there's going to be registration, we're trying to get these out, even if I think we're going to be shipping them if we have to. But everyone hopefully will receive one of these. Now, okay, so the fun stuff, okay, because the talking I don't like. So I'm gonna start by demystifying one of these things. And I had my kids.
Kind of show you the purpose for this.
Yeah, I had my kids and some people talked to some people actually around. I can't see, so it doesn't matter. But this one, a lot of people will be able to recognize, especially if you've done any of the challenges.
Who recognizes what that is? The one in the here, point to it. Who recognizes what that is? Who knows what that is? Who said that?
Correct.
Okay, we
so
got
how many people know
we got
Pig
something
Pen?
for you after. Okay.
So not many, or you don't want to raise your hands. That's fine. Pig pen. It goes also tic-tac-toe, which will help Illuminati, Mason, Freemason.
It goes by a lot of names. But
the key is that I have seen many people look at that and just completely give up because it just
what is
looks
that? How do you look
complicated.
that up on Google, right?
So we're just really quick with the last little bit of time. We're going to destroy that. Everyone, you don't have to do anything, but let's follow. You have 9 letters, A through I. Okay. Think of a tic-tac-toe, and we're just going to populate that grid. Okay. Now what? Well, we have more letters, so let's create another one. We're going to go J through R. Now, can anyone identify the problem that might exist? We have 2 identical looking grids, right? So we're going to make a unique... Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Very good question.
Absolutely.
And you can do literally anything you want. We're just going to pop a dot in each one, right? So now you would have a difference between the 2 grids. Now there's multiple ways of moving forward. You can have a 3rd grid, but for those of you following along with the math, you'd have an extra spot. You could always use that extra spot for something. Keep that in mind for maybe challenges in the future. But we're just going to take care of the rest of our 8 letters. Can anyone think of how to break up 2, give us 2 different areas with 8? So 8, it's weird to ask that question. 8 divided by 2 is 4. How can we create a grid for 4? Oh, I'm seeing symbols. That's what I like to see. Okay, so we're just going to do that. And again, we're going to populate. And now we're going to get really complicated here. We have 4 more to do. Again, I'm speeding through this because this part is not the cool part. But same thing, we need to identify it, right? Okay, so what we then are left with is a system that looks something like this. But what do we do with this? We've taken information that we know, we've organized it into an area, we've made it to where we can uniquely identify all 26 objects, in this case, the alphabet. And I don't know, yeah, you should be able to see, but let's explore a few things. I can, for example, E is a really easy one to look at. If I were to draw a square, and I were to put a dot in that square, who here could tell me what they think that letter would be represented? N,
Okay.
right? What about if I were to make a greater than symbol? No dot.
Very good.
Okay, I like it. So, who can tell me what that says? We can go. I heard it. Let's take a look. You have this angle, L, right? If you look here, you're looking at L, or this angle, however you want to look at it. This one down here resides over here, and you just finish it out, right? So you have your Y, your P, and your T. So what this ends up creating is CrYpT. Now, the funny part is that if you've been to DEF CON, if you've seen your lanyards, this has been on lanyards, this has been all around DEF CON, and when we started asking people, like, what is this? They're like, oh, I don't know, it looks cool. And there's been so much missed experience just from that little bit. And at this point, I would hope everyone in the room then would be able to identify
what that says.
What anything says that's written in Pigpen from this point forward. So, really quick, I just want to get that explanation out because we're hitting where we are. So at this point, are there any questions about anything?
Thoughts, feelings.
And we were hoping more so about mystery challenge questions, badge challenge questions, anything that anyone's concerned with. If your food is going to be good. Oh, we take for granted. You're right.
Mystery challenge is a challenge that rolls all types of hacker challenge into one challenge. Social engineering, hardware engineering, software engineering, lock picking, and just creative thought. In fact, the way Grifter usually wins is he goes in and acts like he's everybody's friend, and he gets information from this group, and information from this group, and information from this group, and then he makes him think he's his friend. He'll feed him a little bit that he got from the other team, and maybe it's true and maybe it's not. There's a reason. I think Jeremy had the best response. People were griping, he cheated, and Jeremy says, his name is Grifter. What's the mystery in there?
Yeah.
So for example, one year, part of the challenge was they basically had to get a steel box open, and the way Ryan confused that is he had it machined so that the threads where it screwed together were backwards. So instead of lefty-loosey and righty-tighty, it was backwards. So they're struggling and smacking and think, what else could be holding this? And it's because they were turning it the wrong way, you know, that kind of thing. When they got it opened, I believe that was the year that they had the parts that they had to build basically a crystal radio receiver and tune it to a certain frequency where he was putting out, I think it was Morse code that year, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that year, yes.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. So
there's something else I'd kind of like to mention just for a second, just because it's kind of funny.
Okay.
It's kind of a holdover from Mystery Challenge. It was DEF CON 22.
Okay.
And part of that challenge was you decrypted a message, and it decrypted to a phone number that you called, and you heard some tones. Well, this was part of a thing on a TV show, and we ended up getting 9,000 phone calls one night. And just to let you guys know, because it's public knowledge at this point, we are now consultants on the Mr. Robot television show.
So yeah, so I actually this one of the
and it was born from that.
Yeah, one of the cool benefits behind this. Thank you. one of the cool benefits behind this is there's currently a challenge that's been going on this whole season, and so if you so watch it, and with this object you may be able to start identifying some things and get involved in that ARG, alternate reality game for those that don't know. Actually, I didn't. I was all like, you mean AR? But anyway.
So essentially what we've done with this tool is tried to make it at least possible to identify this stuff so you do know where to start. Again, like I say, a slide rule or an abacus to start. It's something that we feel will be effective towards helping you get started because it's basically a key for a lot of these different types of cipher, at least to help you identify them. And hopefully it won't be so intimidating anymore. And I really do think that if you guys are willing to give it a try, I think you'll find it to be a rewarding experience and, again, make some really great friends.
But I have identified we still haven't really answered the mystery challenge thing. And there's a reason behind that. It's difficult to answer. Like conf.
How would you explain it?
How would you explain it having experienced it?
Having been through it.
Yeah. So basically he's saying it's all consuming.
Are you glad you did it?
Absolutely glad he did it. But this is what I really want to know. And do you feel that you left that experience having learned a lot? And that is the key. Even one of these smaller things that are going to help you get to that point, it's funny because I sit and I get the stuff that Loss is doing. I sit and I test it, see where it's going. He's checking for Googles and everything. And I sit and I learn more than I would ever want to learn. But then I'm so glad that I did it because of the journey or the experience that you go on when solving these. So if you don't know.
By the way, we're going to have a room here. Or we have a room here to come hang out, and we have these coins and these ciphers and these challenges to try out. We would encourage you to come and try that with us. We will be happy to walk you through some of that and help you get started. And again, the whole point of this is to help you kind of cut your teeth on that. And we intended for all of you to have your device today, and we're sorry that didn't happen. It was just out of our control, but we will get them to you as soon as possible, until which time we do have the digital images that you'll be able to use to kind of help you move forward with some of this stuff, and we would encourage you to come and take advantage of that. So, come and see us. And are there any other questions or comments? Because anything?
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Enjoy the con.